when you think about Doge and what that was supposed to represent and how we ultimately ended up with this bill, which again is the complete opposite of essentially what Doge was supposed to be, which was cleaning up government waste. And believe me, we've got a lot of government waste. And you know where the most government waste can be found, Jen? I think we all know.
I'm going to say it's in the Pentagon.
The Pentagon gets, on paper, $1 trillion bill. What do you think that is? That's jobs that don't need to exist. So when people talk about an economy where we are not properly competing with China, there's a reason for that. It isn't because we need to compete with China militarily. It's because we need to be competing with China economically. And we're going to show you a quick.
And for some reason, we believe that us putting the same amount of money into war that China puts into education will somehow land us on the top of that. Yeah, that's a special kind of stupid.
Now, I don't want to, Colin, I'm not leading off with that one. Just grab me the first one that I sent you, please. So Trump's bill did pass.
Yep.
2 GOP voters voted no. Massie was one. I don't know who the other one was.
I was going to ask you who was the other one. Yeah.
Maybe it was, I doubt it was Marjorie, but
if it was her, we would probably know it was her.
Yeah, I probably would have heard it as well. But if anybody knows for sure who the second GOPer who voted no, I believe it was Brian Fitzpatrick in Pennsylvania. He's in Pennsylvania's first congressional district is one of the top swing districts in the country. So it would certainly, that's in the Senate, Jimmy. I know Rand Paul voted no in the Senate, but there was
the second person in the House.
Talking about a person in the House, which I believe was Brian Fitzpatrick. I don't know if they convinced him to switch his vote back or not. But here's what you need to know about this particular piece of legislation. House Republicans just passed Trump's big, beautiful bill.
Wait, no, Chucky the Shoe. I mean, he told him he changed the name. He said he changed the name.
Well, that changes everything, doesn't it?
Well, that was such a good effort for you fighting for us, Chuck. But yes, I thought he changed the name officially.
Yeah, so Brian Fitzpatrick, who is in a very competitive district, which swings back and forth between Republican and Democrat, he decided that it was better to vote against this bill. He's going to have a primary challenger. He may be screwed either way because of how dirty the political game actually is. As far as I know, he's an okay representative, which in this day and age is the best you could hope for. Cuts $1 trillion from Medicaid. But as I've said, and as Jen has said many times before, what is the point of talking about Medicaid and cuts to Medicaid when we all know what the solution is? The solution is single-payer health care in which you would never have to worry about Medicare or Medicaid. That is the dirty little secret about what the Democrats are not going to fight for on your behalf. They will not even allow it to be brought to a floor vote, nor will they allow it to be forced as a vote, as the so-called squad decided to put the kibosh on that a few years back.
Well, the point being is that Medicaid shouldn't need to even exist. That shouldn't be a thing. We don't, if everybody just had healthcare, from when you're born to when you die, you just get healthcare, and it includes all your body parts. It includes your teeth and your eyes and everything. I know it's crazy. But if we just had that, then these states wouldn't need to be playing this ridiculous game and have to be dealing with this. But yeah, Medicaid should just not even be a thing.
In addition to that, evidently, because of the cuts, it is going to result in as many as 17 million people being kicked off of their health insurance. Well, that should be an indicator right there. Insurance. We should, again, that word should not exist. That is essentially the big deal here, is that you kick 17 million people off of a plan that probably is a shit plan to begin with. So you've already been making them struggle beyond recognition to survive. And now they're going to lose that. And what is going to come of it? Well, as we know, it is going to lead to at least over 50,000 preventable deaths a year, which, as far as we know, under the current system, without this even being reduced, we're already losing about, I think, 75,000 people a year. So now we'll bump it up to 125,000.
Make no mistake, that's violence. That's violence. Everybody who voted for this is supporting violence against our people. That's what that is. That's violence. So, as just a news flash for when violence comes back to the people that are perpetrating this violence, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised. And again, I'm unarmed, but I'm just saying, it's like, this is violence, and violence begets violence. So, yeah.
Yes, austerity is violence, as Mr. Grumbine likes to say. Cut SNAP for hungry kids and families by 30%.
That's violent.
Seems like a cruel policy.
Malnourishing children? Yeah,
yes,
I say so.
Yeah, cruelty is the name of the game. And so force hundreds of rural hospitals to close. Now, here's the thing about this, because this, of course, I believe is probably coming from a Democrat, which proves that it's also a bunch of bullshit. The rural hospitals closing, the big reason that that's become a problem is because private equity has been able to sink their teeth into hospitals. And so by turning them into a for-profit commodity rather than a necessity, I still have to listen to, I don't even call them libertarians. I just call them ignorant fools, because at this point, when you hear somebody say, what does the government do well? Well, the government technically is responsible for hospitals. And it looks like we have gone into the business of let's make hospitals profitable for shareholders, of course, not for regular people. But again, playing God, as a lot of these guys like to do, is essentially what's happening here. They want to be able to make as much profit as humanly possible. And that's what this bill is really showing you. What the bill is essentially showing you is that there is no commodity that's off limits. Nothing.
So I'm sitting here and looking at this list, and in my head, each one of these things is incredibly violent. And I really don't think people understand that. So forcing hundreds of rural hospitals to close. So that's the health equivalent of putting a Walmart in a place where that now is the only thing that can be there, and everyone's basically forced to work there, and there is nowhere else for them to get anything or work. But you do it with a profit hospital. And now people are, yeah. This is violent, all of this. And yeah, defund Planned Parenthood. And I am not a fan of Planned Parenthood. I am not a fan of Planned Parenthood. They're not my organization.
The dirty little secret about Planned Parenthood is that is an organization that has worked tooth and nail to stop single payer healthcare from passing. This is the NGOs.
However, their clinics serve a very important function that I know saves women. It does. I have a friend who would not have survived like teenagerhood had it not been for Planned Parenthood. So, I'm talking about what they do in terms of providing care, not what they do politically. Okay. So to defund them is violent. It's violent. Continue.
Thomas Massie, of course, took this one, blow up the national debt by at least 3.3 trillion. Now, again, when we talk about, it's not about the debt that's the problem. The problem is the deficit. Now, why do we have a deficit spending problem? Because you have a certain amount of revenue, and then you have to tax a certain amount of income without actually creating inflation. As a result, you continue with these massive tax cuts for the rich. Where do you think the money's going to come from? It is going to come from the middle and working class. The poor can't afford shit, and the rich steal it all. And in the process, you have completely eliminated, essentially, the middle class in this country. That's what's happening. And this only makes it worse. It's not like we weren't heading in this path to begin with. We certainly were. But the intention here, which is, you would think at this point, if things are so bad and they're getting so much worse, how are we not heading? The trajectory screams that we're heading for a complete breakdown of our system.
Oh, we're there. It's again, you know, when you're spending more on killing people than you are on healing people, saving people, protecting people, you're failed. You're a failed state. You know what I mean? And the only reason that we haven't officially failed is because we have the most guns.
Yeah.
And so right now it's just might makes right until it can't anymore. And we're getting in that. We're watching the last grasp of that, because this is every single one of these things is a definition of just failed state. And all of these nations that are so-called the problems, they don't have this. They don't have this thing where they're just like kicking people off of healthcare and all this stuff. This is a joke. We're a joke. We just have the most weapons, so everyone bows. But they're starting not to. It's hard to not root for them. I do.
You know what I love? I love seeing tweets like or messages in the chat like this that want to go after Massie because he moved the bill forward. It doesn't matter. There was nothing that was going to stop this from happening. That's the problem. So trying to pin it on Massie and saying that he's the reason that this didn't, he did everything he could in his capacity.
Don't pick on the one person who's really made a point about talking about this and taking so much crap from the president and really putting himself. I mean,
this is the whole standing in a firing, like a circular firing squad. It's the same thing. It's the same stupid problem, and therein lies the issue here. Hey, Shirley, you don't like our channel? You can go elsewhere, because we're not here to bash Thomas Massie.
No. And we call it what we just call it. We say, forget, you know, it's not a tribal thing. You didn't finish this list, right? Blow up the national debt, right? So then reduce after-tax income for 60% of Americans, all while giving a 6-figure tax break to people making more than $3 million a year. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Let them eat cake. Keep it up. Keep flying, people. Like, I mean, again, this is just they are just waving like a red cloth in front of very angry bulls, and just keep doing it.
Now, if you want to know one of the reasons why this bill ultimately ended up passing and shouldn't have passed, it's because, as Jen has said time and time again, we are running a hospice right now on Capitol Hill.
Oh my God.
And no more obvious could that be than, Colin, could you please pull up the message that I sent you? This is the reason why. This is why it's happening.
Hey, everyone play nice in the chat. Everybody play nice in the chat. Don't make me get in there. Don't make me come back there.
Jerry Connolly, who was sick. Raul Gravala, sick. Sylvester Turner, sick. All died in office, wouldn't step down. Jan Schlakowski, who I want to say is in Ohio, I believe. She's been in office for over a generation. She's 81 and apparently took a really nasty fall yesterday.
Pelosi these people are just, they need to pass the baton.
Yeah. And so what's amazing is that if these 3 Dems were still alive and they voted no, the bill would have failed. Now, maybe you could argue that something else would have happened. All right, we got to get rid of this dumbass. All right, that person's gone. Dead Democrats gave GOP the advantage. This goes all the way back to something like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who decided not to step away, and everyone was giving, you know, the shit libs gave everybody hell about saying, how dare you ask Ginsburg to step down? And that, of course, is what led to, was she Neil? No, she wasn't Gorsuch. She was, she led to, I'm trying to remember who was the person that Ginsburg replaced. Jen, do you remember who?
Who replaced Ginsburg?
Ruth Bader Ginsburg was who passed away. Trump replaced her with
Amy Coney Barrett.
I don't know if it was Barrett
Or was Kavanaugh?
Yeah, Brett Kavanaugh. That's who she replaced him with. And this is an example of not this. This is where people really need to understand the difference between the two parties. There isn't really one. One has a role to play and the other has a role to play. When Trump does a bill like this, which is shit, and then Biden does a bill like this, which is shit, you're never going. There are people who still believe that the Build Back Better or the infrastructure bill were good bills.
No,
they're not. We're still dealing with this same problem, believing that we're somehow going to vote our way out of this problem. That's the big issue here.
Oh, there's a lot of problems here. I have a lot of problems with these people.
I do too.
Here's the thing about these people, to quote my great aunt. If you have nothing good to say about the dead, say nothing. They're dead. Good. Onward.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, a lot of people that this is going to be. Yeah. And you see, Anonymous Nope, when you make statements like this, you've already lost because you're already looking at it from the perspective of if we just got rid of these conservative judges, that would suck. No, the problem is the system.
Yeah.
The system is what got you here.
Yeah.
There is, you cannot, again, you can't vote your way out of this. You can't put a good president in there to get you out of this. There's no arm twisting.
No.
And yes, you make the argument that Ketanji Brown Jackson may have been the best aspect of Biden's pathetic presidency, but what change does that make? It doesn't change the fact that we have a system that is bought and paid for by corporate special interests. That's what it comes down to. We live in a system where it could have changed, but it's not going to change because no matter what happens, it's like Zoran winning the nomination for mayor of New York City. It doesn't matter because you've got Bill Ackman, who's just one of several billionaires who's already said, I am going to do everything in my power to make sure that he doesn't win. Just like any other billionaire with an axe to grind who has, wants another major tax break is going to say, I will do everything in my power to make sure that this bill passes. I don't care who I have to threaten. What do you think Mike Johnson's role serves? What do you think Hakeem Jeffries' role serves?
I know what Hakeem Jeffries' role is.
Well, yes, but we don't have to, Point being is that their role is to be the bitch of the corporate donor class.
And then the Democrats are supposed to pose as the resistance, right? That's Mick resistance. Correct. And then even within the Mick resistance, there's the sub Mick resistance, right? Like you've got those real progressive Dems in the Dem party that are even fighting within the party. They're fighting really hard for you. They're up all night.
Democratic Party? And the Democratic
Party? All of that's just theater. Bernie, theater. AOC Pelosi, theater. It's theater. It doesn't mean anything. If it meant something, then they would do the things when they were in power to do the things, but they didn't do the things.
The thing.
The thing. And so they do not care. Again, if Chuck Schumer is going and bragging about his big resistance to this is the head of the party in the Senate and the most powerful Senate Democrat, right? This is the guy. And his big flex is that he had he made them change the name. They can't call it the big, beautiful bill. That was the only thing remotely entertaining about the bill, Chuck. Also, it's what made it seem ultra ridiculous. And it gave them this sort of it was a farce of itself. So the fact that you changed it, that doesn't do anything.
Well, as Kat says, it's not even good theater.
No.
They're not even pretending anymore. And Dave, it's not a question of whether it's performative. It is, but it's not even, it's so beyond not believable at this point. Like that to me, I think is probably the worst part of it. And this is where I sympathize with a lot of people, because the ones who are going to suffer the most are the ones who are already suffering the most. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And it's only going to get worse. And so we ask ourselves, oh, well, if we just vote the Democrats back in, no, that's not going to solve anything.
No.
What is going to solve
Oh
it
my
is
God.
whether people collectively are ready to start truly disrupting the system. That's it. There's no other way. They are daring you to rebel. They're daring you to have a revolution. They are so convinced that you're all a bunch of cuck pussies who won't do jack shit that they're just having fun now. Like a bill like this is a bill to basically tell you we really don't care. Like,
no, they don't care.
We do not care at all. Now, where the layer of this story gets more interesting is when you think about somebody like Trump. Now, he runs for president. He constantly talks about how I'm a man of the people. I'm truly going to help people. You cannot sell this bill. There's nothing good about it, like at all. And I'm living in a world where I have to deal with people who are thinking about it from an investor standpoint. Oh, now we're going to get our, 100% bonus depreciation on our investment. What is the point if people that you are supposedly trying to get rent from can't afford to live in the properties that you want them to live in? Like, what is the point? You can't eat money. You can't drink oil. And yet they don't want to learn this lesson. I don't understand it.
Just that the clip that we saw of Zoran, where the woman asked him, do you think billionaires should exist? Billionaires have the right to exist. And he chuckles because that's just absurd thing to ask.
No, but the problem is that when they did the man on the street walk recently in New York, and a guy who just asked him, should billionaires exist? Like, yeah, of course they should. The guy who probably doesn't have a pot to piss in, but he thinks
right, because he too aspires to be that. That's the dream. But it's also this false understanding of capitalism and what that means and what that looks like. Years and years of propaganda and fear mongering about things like socialism and communism, and things like state media and all different stuff that we have fear mongered so much about, and that we've allowed ourselves to be convinced that somehow free market capitalism ownership of everything is somehow better. And all it is it's the same manipulation and control, with them fighting over profits for it. At least in a place like China, the manipulation and control, it's not, they're not fighting over profiting on it. It's like, we just know who's in charge. We're ridiculous.
We are.
That's what I think. I think we're ridiculous.
Now, where this story gets more interesting, and Jen is very, not just professorial, but prophetic in her assessments about.
I have a little bit of clairvoyance.
Well, you said from the very beginning that the unholy alliance between Trump and Elon Musk was not going to last. It was probably a lot more of a short. It was a much shorter relationship than I think most people expected it to be. But who knows exactly what the breaking point was? And what we will remind people is that the severing of the relationship, including the little "let me kick you in the butt on my way out the door," was Elon, putting a shot across the bow with Trump by saying that he was in the Epstein files. Now, we're going to get to the connection with the Epstein files shortly. But what I think is the bigger issue here is this. Elon Musk just 3 days ago said, if this insane spending bill passes, the American Party will form the next day. So we're going to form it on July 4th.
That's actually pretty good, but he's just so douchey.
Our country needs an alternative to the Democratic Republican Uniparty.
We're not your country, Elon. Go home.
I paid for my citizenship. It's accepted. Our country needs an alternative to the Democrat Republican Uniparty so that the people actually have a voice. So, what is his intention? The intention of Mr. Musk, Lord Farquaad.
Lord Farquaad.
Although he is trying to kind of rectify his standing now. But Elon has made it very clear, whether he starts another party or not, he intends to spend a lot of money primarying these the Republicans, or in this case, rhinos, if you will, that have completely destroyed the party. And by doing so, it's also still furthering the problem here that a billionaire can just arbitrarily decide, I'm going to completely take over the electoral process in America. I will spend tens of millions of dollars, or maybe what's $100 million to him? Just like what was $100 million to Miriam Adelson to give to Trump.
Look at what Bloomberg will do in New York. These people don't mind buying things.
Yeah.
Like it's just not going to keep working.
Bloomberg gives Cuomo basically $10 million in a primary in about a month and a half window. How much money do you think he's going to give Eric Adams to stop Zoran in the general election? $50 million? It's not
at least whatever they think it'll take to put out as much crap about him as they can. But as I always say, there's this point of diminishing returns, right? Like, you're not going to get more with more money. It's just not working anymore. That tactic is not working anymore, especially with someone who won't have any trouble raising enough money to be competitive. There's no they're just being ridiculous. But as far as Elon, I find, and I am not a nationalistic person in any way. Like, I am not with that. But the idea that someone who's not from us comes to where we are and tells us what we should and shouldn't do is just annoying. It's just annoying, and can come in and just buy our space and it's every bit as annoying to me about Elon Musk doing it as it is about Israel doing it. You know, what you have are people that are not us dictating what we need to be doing. And basically our entire Congress, with very few exceptions, have hoarded themselves in this capacity. So it's just disgusting. But yeah, I think if anybody needs to be deported, it really should be him. And I think he should take his most ridiculous trucks with him.
Elon Musk knew long before you know what I find interesting? He's very bad at punctuation. Elon Musk knew long before he so strongly endorsed me for president that I was strongly against the EV mandate. It is ridiculous and was always a major part of my campaign. Electric cars are fine, but not everyone should be forced to own one. I hate when that happens. Elon may get more subsidy than any human being in history by far, and without subsidies, Elon would probably have to close shop and head back home to South Africa.
That's what I want. That's what I'm pushing for. Exactly. He needs to go home. Like E.T., he needs to go home.
Yeah. Elon would probably, so no more rocket launches, satellites, or electric car production, and our country would save a fortune. Perhaps we should have Doge take a good hard look at this. Big money to be saved. Now, it has been suggested, I don't know how accurate this is, but it has been suggested that the reason why Trump has not pulled his permits with the Pentagon is because Elon really does hold the ultimate Trump card, that he does have the Epstein files and that he will release them if he feels it's necessary.
But I think I don't think that but it would be affecting him too. It's like, that's the kill switch.
Well, that's also the whole thing that we've always said about Wasserman Schultz, is that the reason why she was never properly taken out of power is because she effectively, as head of the DNC for over 5 years, has the kill switch, because she knows where all the bodies are buried. And it becomes this whole thing of, well, if I go down, you're all going down.
Right. Now, I don't think Elon wants to go down, because I think he's implicated too.
Well, if one billionaire goes, and it's like the next billionaire is going to go too, because there's something on them that they're all wound up in this big, beautiful cabal of ultra power. That's kind of what it is.